So it's the holiday season and you're on the market for a Rolex. Don't make this watch buying mistake. The buying I'm talking about is not from the Rolex authorized dealers. This is from independent dealers only, which is typically the only way to buy a lot of Rolex models still. So what is the mistake? Skip the box. Don't buy the watch box. But there's nuance to it. It doesn't apply to every case. So I want to split this into 3 different cases: new watches, used watches, and vintage watches. So let's define the 3 and understand more about it. So independent dealers buy Rolex watches from other dealers, from retail customers, and from authorized dealers too. The packaging they use to sell these watches is very similar to packaging that Rolex ADs themselves receive their shipment in, and they are these sort of tiny pouches or tiny plastic cases with the watch, swing tag, the card, and some papers. The box is not connected to the watch. It's generic. ADs receive their boxes independently of the watches. Watches are delivered in some form of armored trucks. Boxes are pretty valueless in comparison, so I think they're just normal run-of-the-mill shipments. The boxes are also not made in Switzerland. I think they outsource from China. To independent dealers, to watch dealers, it's pretty much the same story. If you choose to buy with a box, you will pretty much get a generic watch box, and that always costs extra, about $200. So now it's pretty clear, new watches, it doesn't make that much sense to buy with the box because the box is not connected to the watch and you're just simply paying more. And it's pretty easy to get the same box for $200. Now, used watches is a bit of a different story. So if a dealer is selling you a used watch with the box, you might not already have some negotiating potential by saying, I don't want the box, I just want the watch. Especially if the box is actually the one that came with a watch. But for most watches that are within 5 years old, the boxes are pretty much the same as brand new boxes. So if the watch is modern, maybe within 5 years, within the latest iteration of boxes, then just skip the box. That's also if you can skip the box. Some dealers will not want to hang on to a box. Additionally, Rolex boxes are not really special. They're not connected to the watch. There isn't much sense in a watch enthusiast just hoarding them. And if you're buying a watch from somewhere else, it's heavy, it's large, it's expensive to ship. It doesn't make that much sense. If you like to change watches often, the box is not really as much of a bargaining chip as people make it seem. Don't let dealers beat you down on price just because you don't have the box. They can just buy another one for $200. So if they do beat you down on price, it should be $200 less than the same watch with a box from somewhere else. Boxes are somewhat important to dealers only because they're important to watch enthusiasts buying from the dealers. There's this cycle of customers wanting the full set with the box because they think that makes much of a difference. In terms of new watches and relatively new pre-owned watches, it makes no difference. But in the case of vintage watches, this is where I tell you to buy with the box. Here the box holds a lot of importance in combination with the watch. The older boxes have value because it's a collector's spec thing. They're not made anymore. They're different now. And you can't get those boxes. So to summarize, brand new watches, skip the box. Relatively new used watches, also consider skipping the box. Vintage watches and older used watches, get it with the box. Additionally, if you're on the market for a watch in Hong Kong, shoot me a message. So that's a common watch buying mistake or misconception that I see people often making and paying a bit more where they don't need to. See you in the next vid. Cheers.